guys. It is me, Alex Ever. I am an artist in the community. I love making all sorts of stuff, from fiber arts to nature art to digital art. And I'm so excited to work with you guys today to make some awesome pieces of art out of organic materials. So today, we're going on a journey. All right, this is where you get to tap in and use your imagination. We are going to be making a collage creature. As a reminder, a collage is taking all sorts of pieces and putting them together to make something new. So we're going to be using our organic materials, our pieces from nature, and put them all together to collage a creature from our imagination. I love playing around and making creatures and new things and fun things from my imagination. So I hope you have fun doing this with me. First step, we are going to organize our materials. So you can see here, I have a few of my organic materials here. I actually have some extra stuff off camera as well. This is going to be a non-permanent piece of art, which means we're not going to be gluing it to paper and keeping it forever. So at the end of the process, we're actually going to wipe it away because it's made out of pieces of nature. And I think that's a really important part of the process. So we want to organize our materials so we know what we're working with, so we can see everything clearly. And I think it really does help us connect to our materials, to calm our body down, to get our mind ready. So you can see some examples I already have of materials being organized. And I want to encourage you to organize your materials in a way that feels good for you. I think we all have things we like to organize and line up or adjust in our lives. It can feel really good and things can just feel right, you know? So I encourage you to do whatever feels good for you. I really like lining things up and kind of doing kind of squares or blocks. You can see with, on the camera, I kind of have those whirligig or samara seeds that fall down like little helicopters. So what I'm doing is I'm alternating the pattern because that feels really nice and it just looks like it fits. But you can organize your materials in a variety of ways. You can do it by color. You can do it by size. You can do it by pattern. Maybe you put everything that is round or spherical over on one side, and maybe you put things that are long on the other side. So do whatever feels right for you. And now we want to make sure that we have plenty of space to make our art. So what I'm actually going to do is I won't organize all my materials right here because I want to make sure we have space for our collage creature. But I do want to show you kind of this really important part of the process that I encourage you to do and take your time with it. So let's see, I want to move all my materials to the side. So I'm going to set up my workspace. And for you guys today, I'm going to move some of my things off camera so I have plenty of space to work on my creature. And I'm going to leave some of the material that's already organized on camera for you to see. And you can see I left my organized pieces here, but it's okay to move them over. And it's okay if they get out of line. It's all right if the pattern you made changes. You can always readjust them like me. Move those over here. And I think I'm just going to scoot these guys back so they're a little bit off camera. All right, so I've set up my workspace. I've taken time to organize things. I've scooted things out of the way. Try to give yourself a the size of a large piece of paper, whatever that means for you. It'd be really hard to make a creature that's this big. You won't really be able to work on the details. So now it begins. We're going to being mindful and envisioning how we want this creature to look. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, all right? Trust me on this. It's going to help if you close your eyes. And sit in a comfortable position, sitting up straight. Make sure your shoulders aren't tense. Maybe roll them back to see how you were holding them. And take a nice big breath and release it. And while your eyes are closed, I want to encourage you to breathe deeply and slowly in through your nose and out through your mouth, okay? And while your eyes are closed and you're going to be breathing in that comfortable position, I'm going to describe a setting, and I want you to picture things. And whatever comes to mind, just picture it in your mind, all right? So keep breathing. Okay, ready? So I'm going to ask you to use your imagination to invent a creature that you will make. So please try to focus and follow along, and I will do my very best to guide you and help you. And in the end, you're going to have something that's uniquely yours and yours alone. So imagine you are walking through a forest. You're walking and you can feel the ground underneath your feet. You can smell pine cones. Or maybe it's raining and you can smell the rain. Or maybe it's a really hot day. What do you think kind of forest you're walking through? Is it a forest that has pine cones? Maybe it's one full of palm trees. So think about that. Think about what you can smell and envision yourself walking there. So maybe it's a rainforest. Maybe it's a fall forest with different colored leaves. Is it like one you've heard about somewhere before or one you've never heard about at all? You've thought of your forest. Now you're thinking of the weather and maybe how you can imagine that feeling on your skin. You could feel sunlight or wind or snow. And after you've kind of figured that out, you figure out what forests and what things you're seeing and what the weather is. I want you to think about what types of creatures might live in the forest that you're thinking about. You thinking about it? Great. So, back to imagining yourself walking through this forest. You're out and about and you see a bush, whatever you imagine fitting in your forest. And just as soon as you see it, it starts to rustle and shake. And you realize there must be an animal inside. And slowly, very slowly, it peeks out its head. And you realize it's a creature that you can't recognize, like one you've never seen before. So I want you to take another nice breath and then open your eyes. Okay, so we've just started. You have your forest, you have your environment, and you just envisioned a strange and odd creature popping its head out. So now we're going to work together to try to clarify what that image was in your mind, okay? So, turn to our materials. First things first, we're going to make the body of this creature. So, when you were thinking about that creature kind of peeking out of the bush, How big do you envision it being? Was it as small as a mouse, big as an elephant, size of a medium dog, right? Lots of different things. No matter the size, I want you to try to make the body at least the size of a hand, okay? Because we're going to be adding a lot of detail. So we want to have plenty of space to work with. So envisioning a body, I kind of picture I'm going to be looking at my materials and I'm going to be using something a little bit more flat so I can keep layering up things to make the body. And I don't have the clearest idea of what I want my creature to be. We're going to kind of discover that together. So don't feel alarmed if you don't have the perfect idea of what your creature looks like. You can use your materials to help inspire you and create that creature. And it's okay, you can kind of see I'm taking off the stems of these leaves. It's okay to manipulate your materials. Let's see, so I'm going to be using these ginkgo leaves to help make the body. And if you have another idea of what you'd like to use, I say run with that. I'm using one type of leaf or organic material, but if you want to combine different things, I say go for it. This is your creature. And your shape can look totally different than mine. So I think I'm going to layer these up. I think that helps with kind of my vision for the creature. And some things slide out of the way, but I can always adjust them back. Okay, great. So you've created the body, and I just want to remind you that I may be moving a little bit faster than you want to. And for all the steps that I'm doing, you can always watch me move forward and then take your time afterwards to make your creature. Or if you're watching this on a video, you can pause it and then start it when you're ready to move on, okay? So don't feel panicked, don't feel rushed. We just want to take our time. So we're going to move on to the next step. Now that we have our body, we are going to figure out how the creature moves. So now that we're going to figure out how the creature moves, I want you to envision how it came out of that bush, right? How we started to see it. Did it step with a big paw? Maybe you just saw claws. Maybe it was slithering, right? So take a moment to think about how you first envisioned that creature moving out towards you when you had your eyes closed. I kind of envision my creature kind of slinking or slithering with kind of some small feet. And since this is a creature unlike we've ever seen before and from our imaginations, get creative with it. Maybe it has the legs of a wolf, but there's 6 different legs, right? So feel free to run with your ideas. I'm going to use these little leaves and I can tuck them actually right under mine. And I'm going to give it a couple of really short legs. And it's okay if some things shift out of place. You can always readjust them, right? So it has those small legs. I think I'd like to leave it at that for now. That's how my creature moves. And just a reminder, it's okay if you don't have that full image in your head. Look at your natural materials for ideas to help you create or envision that image or that small idea you had in mind. Now, once you add your legs, we are going to be adding a face. So imagine that as that creature came out of that bush, however it came out, that you can see it a little bit closer and you notice its face and you can see their eyes. All right. So let's start there. We want to be giving it a face and then we want to add some eyes. So I think I have a larger leaf right here. And for me, that feels a little bit big for the creature I was envisioning. So I'm once again going to manipulate my material. I'm going to use this to add for my face. So there's its head. I do like how that looks. And I can always adjust it. I have some other pieces right here. So I'm going to see how these look as well. Neat. Okay. Yeah, I do like that. Now I want to add those eyes. So I wonder how many eyes I want my creature to have. Are they really big? Are they really tiny? And I think I'm actually going to take one of these red leaves that I have and try to make like a spot for its eye to go. And I have some stones over here, and I actually think this would look great for an eye on the creature. Yeah, that's coming together. I really like how that looks. So maybe you use something even smaller, or you have a bunch of giant eyes. You know, maybe your head is a completely different shape, right? So now that we've added the eyes, let's keep focusing on that face. What kind of mouth do you envision on that creature? Did it poke its head out and walk closer and you see it and it's a beak? You know, maybe it's a really long snout. Maybe it has something similar to an elephant trunk or a face of a fish, right? So I have my head, but I can always add more to it. I can take that time to adjust things. The great thing about doing these kind of nature collage where you're not gluing things down is you can keep shifting them and adjusting them based on what you need. Yeah, so I do think I want to make that head a little bigger, make that mouth a little bit larger. Maybe I can add something like that. Yeah, cool. And it looks like I kind of have an open mouth here, and I think that would be really neat to add some teeth. And I have some pine needles, and I'm actually going to see if I can kind of stick the pine needles in the mouth, and it kind of will look like teeth. Yeah, it's starting to look like teeth. I really like that. And like I said, maybe you envisioned a beak or something totally different. But I really like the idea of its mouth opening up, and maybe it has like a growling sound. And I encourage you to take your time. You can see I'm trying to be really delicate. I used my pinky to adjust one of those little pieces of pine needles because I want to be really careful with these smaller pieces. Actually, I can't stick my hand in there without adjusting everything. And while that's okay, I'm going to use one pine needle to kind of adjust them all. Awesome. So I just added teeth, I had my mouth, I lengthened it, but if we're thinking about a face, what other things can you imagine or you think would be really neat to put on this animal? Maybe it has a really big nose, or it has whiskers or horns or giant ears. So take a moment, maybe touch and look at your materials and see what you can put down and play with. I really like the idea of maybe giving it a nose. I think that would look neat. So I have the same material that I used for the feet, and I could maybe see how that looks. I also have these pine cones. That could be a nice nose for it. Yeah, I like that. And I like the idea of whiskers or kind of coming off its face, or maybe antenna. And I have the stems from the ginkgo leaves that I ripped off, and I think it'd be kind of cool to use those. So I wonder if I can make whiskers in a way that I really like. I'm going to adjust some pieces here. Whoa, it looks kind of different. Let's see. I'm going to have more coming off here, kind of sticking out. Yeah, that looks cool. And I'm going to add an ear. I really like the idea of it having a little ear. I have all my leaves. I wonder if I can kind of... Yeah, that looks neat. And maybe you can hear, I don't have a clear idea of what I wanted my creature to look like beforehand. And I'm looking at my materials and I'm getting those ideas. Like I maybe want a bigger ear right here. Cool. I like it. It kind of looks like, I don't know, like a cat, mouse, caterpillar creature right now. It's awesome. So you've taken your time to add these details, right? Play around. If you don't like something, move it and adjust it, right? Maybe you can envision a different idea, or you want to capture a different feature that you're really excited by. I say run with it. It's awesome. So now that we've taken time to focus on that face, we envision the creature coming out of the bush, and then it moves closer. We see its face. We're going to take some time to notice some more details about our creature. So envisioning that it just came out of that bush, and now we got to see its face a little bit more clearly. Imagine that now you're looking across the whole body, and instead of the shape, we see some patterns, right? So let's add some different patterns and texture to our creature. Lots of different animals have different patterns on their scales or skin or fur. So take a moment to think about what kind of patterns you would see on this animal based on the forest that you imagined, right? If you're imagining kind of like a tropical rainforest, maybe it has really bright and fun patterns like a parrot. If it was something from maybe a evergreen forest, maybe it really needs to blend in with the shadows, so it has a bunch of different spots, right? So once again, I'm going to look at my materials and see what I can use to create those different patterns. And I'm going to put those directly on the body of my creature. So I have some really small leaves right here. And I really like these, and I think this can really help add to the pattern of my creature. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the stems once again. And if you have something similar, maybe you like to keep the stems. It's totally fine. Because maybe I can use these again. So I'm going to, let's see, gently add some of these leaves to my creature, trying to make that pattern. I kind of like the idea of the red on the face kind of showing on the body with these light pink leaves. And I'm going to take my time to make a pattern that shifts and alternates. Maybe you have a lot of really small pieces, or maybe you have a lot of big pieces and you're going, Alex, I don't have a way to add to my body. Remember how I tore up the leaves and I'm taking off the stems? Maybe you can deconstruct or take apart some of the materials you have to help give you those smaller pieces to create those patterns that we're trying to create right now. So I like this. I think this is neat. It kind of reminds me of like a long wispy pieces of hair on the creature. But I want to create a little bit clearer of a pattern. So I think I'm going to actually take some of the pieces of rosemary that I have and lay them on the body of the creature. Oh, that one fell, but that's okay. I can always readjust things. I think this big one can go right here. And I'm putting the rosemary in the blank spots where there aren't those smaller leaves. I think that can add to creation. And it's kind of hard for the piece I made. Some of the pieces are sliding off, but that's okay. Part of the fun is trying to figure out ways to add things and get creative. And I know I always feel really proud when I figure out a way to adjust something carefully. Because for me, that reminds me that, you know what, I took my time and I'm making something that I really want to be proud of. Awesome. Cool. So I kind of have the pattern on my creature. Maybe it's a little bit hard to see, but I have those tiny pieces of rosemary. And now we're moving on to adding extra details. And this is where maybe you've been thinking, you're like, all right, Alex, I have the body, I envision the face, we have a pattern. And now is where I say, hey, let's add more of those things that we would see on a creature, right? There's different things you can work on where maybe with the feet, right? Maybe I want to add something that looks a little bit more like claws, really tiny claws. Or with the body, maybe I want to add a tail. You know what? I'm going to try to do that right now. What would it look like if I added a tail to this creature? And I'm layering these different materials on each other. And I have some other leaves that dried. I think that would look really cool for some fur. It's kind of a funky, twisted shape, huh? So it kind of has a little tuft at the end. I think that looks pretty cool. And I can curl it up if I want. Great thing about the materials is we can move them, which I think is wonderful. Yeah, I want to make a big kind of puff at the end of its tail. Be pretty cool. So this was just one example, but maybe you want to take a lot of time with all the pieces to add your details. After this, then we kind of move into finishing our creature. You get to take the time to add all those details. Maybe I have these pieces, these different flowers. Maybe I actually want to stick it in its mouth like it's eating something. Or I want to take time to add some big wings, right? Maybe I want to see what it looks like to make the legs longer on my creature. You know what? You get to do that. The way I showed you how to do things are just steps to help us get those pieces so then we can take that time to really unlock our imagination and see where it can take us. So, yeah, take your time to finish your creature. We did it. We made an awesome collage creature from our imagination, and we took that time to make those pieces. So let's move to our closing reflections so we can kind of take that time to reflect on those things. Similar to how I asked you to close your eyes and sit back and relax your body, we're going to do that again. Close your eyes, straighten your back, just like how you did when I kind of described that forest for you and you figured that out in your mind's eye. And I want you to take a moment and think about, what was your favorite part of this? Was it realizing you had a really cool idea for the head of the creature? Maybe when you were doing your details, you were really excited about adding some giant wings. Maybe you created a little baby creature right next to your big one, right? I'm sure there were some really awesome choices you made. So I want you to take that time to figure that out. Hold that in your mind. And then I have a question for you, and that's, what do you appreciate about your imagination? You did something that really pushed yourself to envision something. Maybe that was hard for some of you. Maybe that was really exciting, but you all have wonderful imagination. So think about, what about your imagination is something that is really awesome to you. Maybe take a breath and hold it in your mind. And I want you to appreciate the work you did today. This is awesome. I love my creature. I've never made anything like this. It's really fun. So take some time to look at your piece. And when you're all done, remember, we want to wipe it away and then we want to reorganize our materials. So feel free to take a picture, do whatever you need. You are awesome. Thank you guys so much. Okay, have a good day.